One of the funniest things that Core told me was him and Ruler played against Uzi when they were on Samsung, and they would go back and watch the replay, and Ruler would say, yeah, we just watched the replay and I made no mistakes. Uzi just played amazing. And then Core's like, we can play with no mistakes and lose this bad.
In every game, there are the greats. The first to stamp their name.
He's with another X. He's very low.
The ones who make their mark in history. And then there are those who define the game for years to come.
Listen to frauds as they are cheering for Uzi.
Jian, Uzi, Zi-Hao was a household name in League of Legends. The legendary AD carry was known for his signature champion, Vayne, and his flawless mechanics that were far and above the competition, elevating the level of play in the pro scene in its heyday. But since retiring in 2020, then coming back to play years after, the mechanical god was never the same, leading to his eventual re-retirement. From back-to-back World Finals to narrowly missing Worlds in his last season, what exactly happened to Uzi? Uzi started his career at the very young age of 15, joining the iconic Royal Club in late 2012. This gave way to his nickname of the Puppy, which would later be referenced in a well-known strategy the team would come to rely on, raising the puppy.
当时我们有个战术叫养狗战术，养狗战术也特别有名的嘛，4保1。所以我们对于小狗它的每一个操作，它的每一个想法，我们都是绝对信任它的。
With his mechanics, Uzi would give the team enough firepower to go toe-to-toe with teams like World Elite and Invictus Gaming, who, at the time, were considered to be the best teams in China. In his first year alone, Uzi and Royal Club would move up from 5th in the regular spring season to 2nd place in summer. With their momentum, the team would then go on to make an unbelievable run at the Season 3 China Regional Finals, taking down heavy favorites OMG after falling to the losers bracket at their very hands. With their win, Royal Club directly qualified for the Season 3 World Championship quarterfinals. There, they once again took down OMG to face Season 1 World Champions Fnatic in the semifinals.
Guardian Angel's going to get popped, but again, Uzi is free farming right now, locking up the entire team. That's a double kill for Uzi.
Royal is going to be walking their way into the base on this one. They have inhibitors in their eyes. They're going to have Nexus turrets in their eyes.
After a decisive win against Fnatic, Uzi would then face off against Faker in the grand finals. But even with his signature Vayne in hand, Uzi couldn't stop the rise of Faker and was swept 3-0. A fateful series that would be the beginning of a one-sided rivalry standing between Uzi and the Summoners Cup for years to come. At this point, Uzi had gotten so far, so fast with his sheer talent, and as young as he was, Uzi still had a ways to go before lifting his first ever trophy. He was undoubtedly one of the best players in the world, yes, but he was still immature and butted heads with teammates when things didn't go his way. Case in point, coming into the 2014 season, Whites and Tabe officially announced their retirement following the Season 3 World Finals. Upon learning this, Uzi, the best AD carry in the world, role swapped to mid lane because he refused to play with a support below the skill level of Tabe. As expected, the roster move didn't pan out as well as Royal Club expected, with the team nearly getting sent to relegation in spring. Come summer, however, Starhorn Royal Club would go on to sign Korean players Insec and Zero in the jungle and support role, completely changing the team's dynamic moving forward. With legendary jungler Insec, the team performed much better, finishing 3rd in the summer season playoffs, qualifying for the regional finals, and then Worlds once again. Despite seeing much better results this time around, Uzi and the team still had conflicting opinions on how they wanted to play the game. At that time, Uzi was notorious for his temper, being a younger player with an ego befitting a hyper carry.
You really have
Uzi's
to wonder
devastated.
what's
Absolutely
happening.
dejected in this. You have to say, though, any emotion we've seen very much so from AD carries, they've taken a moment to step back, and then they've came out gigantic in these tournaments.
Of which was so severe that a mere month before Worlds, Uzi would forcefully pick Vayne in a game against a Chinese challenger team in Season 1 of the X Championship when they had already picked Lucian earlier in the draft. As a result, The team was forced to play Lucian in the jungle and Lee Sin as a support, which led to a 2-0 loss against the said amateur team.
King 是拿下了吊场的比赛成功。
There were even rumors of Uzi not going to Worlds following a now-deleted post on Weibo ranting about his frustrations with the team. Nevertheless, somehow, someway, even with their language barrier, the team managed to come together to perform at the highest level in the 2014 World Championship.
It doesn't have to be the best equalizer when you got Uzi with shields on him going in. Both members now in second. Uzi picking up a kill for themselves.
After a dominant group stage, Royal Club made it all the way to the finals once again after 2 nail-biting 5-game series against EDG and OMG. For the first time in the game's history, Uzi became the first player to reach back-to-back World Finals, in his first 2 years of play nonetheless. But once again, that's as far as the puppy could hope to reach as Samsung White put a firm stop to their Cinderella run 3-1 with Insect's Lee Sin target ban in the jungle and an underperforming top lane in Kola. Uzi and Royal Club stood no chance against the Koreans. Uzi was, yet again, a step short in his pursuit of the Summoners Cup. It was as if he was fated to play second fiddle, and for years, this would be the fate of the superstar carry even as he decided to move teams. In 2015, in one of the biggest roster moves of the LPL, Uzi decided to join rival team Oh My God. Hopes were high as OMG dominated the league before, and with Uzi in tow, they could definitely wreak havoc. Unfortunately, however, Uzi and the team simply didn't click, and for the first time in his career, Uzi would go on to miss Worlds. The year after, Uzi sought to rebuild with Xiaogu Reapers, and for the first time in a long time, Uzi was on top of the standings and was on the verge of winning his first LPL championship. But tragedy would befall our hero once more when the team was not able to field any of their 4 mid-laners in the playoffs, therefore forfeiting their playoffs match.
The Nexus is going to be next on the menu, and WE, a 3-0 sweep in this best of 5, secure themselves.
Given how rocky the years have been since Uzi left Royal Club, the puppy turned Mad Dog finally thought it was time for him to come back home. In the time Uzi left the team, Starhorn Royal Club went from world finalists to academy team after they got relegated in 2015. So, coming into the next season, the organization reinvented itself in the hopes of returning to its old form. Now known as Royal Never Give Up, the team saw an overhaul on their entire roster with up-and-comers like Zi-Hao and MLXG while recruiting the same players that took them down not too long ago, Looper and Mata. Unfortunately for Uzi, he had just missed out on RNG's first domestic title in spring 2016 while he was in limbo with the Xiaogu Reapers, and when he arrived come summer, the team fell 0-3 to EDG in the playoffs. This same old pattern would continue even in the next year, even as teammates came and went, finishing first in the regular season, but failing when it mattered in the playoffs, whether it was WE, EDG, or their immovable wall come Worlds, SK Telecom, and Faker.
That blank throws up the SKT logo. SK Telecom bounce back to even the series at 1-1.
Time and again, Uzi and RNG were thwarted by SKT on the world stage, 2012, 2016, and then 2017. No matter how dominant they looked the entire season, no matter if they met in the quarters, semis, or finals, Faker just had Uzi's number, and it didn't look like that was changing anytime soon. It would only be in 2018 that Uzi finally had a taste of victory and sweet, sweet revenge. Coming from a not-so-great start in the season, RNG were underdogs coming into the spring playoffs. But finally, at a time where no one expected them to rise up to the challenge, Uzi won his first ever domestic title, leading the team with a mind-blowing 81.5% KP and 36% damage share. This was even in the face of Uzi's time being on and off the team because of his deteriorating health, only getting to play around 28 out of the 46 games played in the regular season.
RNG, they have set themselves up to win.
Where were you when history was made? Because here comes Uzi.
The curse lifted. The prophecy has been fulfilled. Uzi now reigns as king. Royal, never give up. Champions, and they will take on the world at MSI.
Nevertheless, the job wasn't finished. The apex of Uzi's career was yet to be realized, and it all came together in Paris. RNG came out of the tourney swinging, easily making their way to the grand finals. After taking down Fnatic 3-0 in the semifinals, it seemed as if the moment had finally come. All those years of trials and tribulations all led to this moment. Uzi was prepared. This time, Uzi had grown as an individual, becoming more open-minded and disciplined as a player, and coincidentally, Faker was out of the picture, no longer there to stop his ascent. Though, it should be said that Kingzone and Dragon X were no slouches, they weren't about to go down without a fight. With exceptional players on every role, the same players in Peanut, Prey, and Gorilla that gave the 2016 era of SKT a run for its money. But it didn't matter. Come game day, Uzi finally overcame his demons and finally, after 5 long years, took down Korea to win his first ever international title in the 2018 Mid-Season Invitational. A well-deserved victory, where Uzi was overwhelmingly crowned the MVP of the entire tournament, dealing an outstanding 39.4% or near 2/4 of his team's damage. Winless no more, Uzi held his head high and finally took a bow, winning his first international title. His next victory would soon come in the Asian Games against Team Korea in the same year, taking home a gold medal for his country. At this point, hopes were definitely at an all-time high as it finally looked like the year China could secure its first Worlds victory in the game's history. And with their win against Invictus Gaming in the 2018 Summer Playoffs behind their backs, RNG were decidedly the favorites to win it all in Worlds 2018. But, in what could be the biggest upset in the history of competitive League of Legends, G2 Esports put their name on the map by taking down the seemingly unstoppable RNG 3-2 in the quarterfinals.
G2 have just dismantled RNG and they're gonna make their way to the semi-finals!
G2 Esports will find another kill, will tear open the base, and Busan is cheering and screaming and crying!
With that loss, all hope that Uzi had of lifting the Summoners Cup along with the impossible feat of securing the first ever Grand Slam was dashed in an instant. And if in Uzi's best year he couldn't do it, perhaps it was never meant to be. After their heartbreaking defeat, Uzi would go on to play his last year with RNG. Despite rotating top laners throughout the season, they managed to clinch yet another second place finish in the summer playoffs to qualify for Worlds, but this time, they couldn't come clutch like they used to as they got eliminated in the group stage after failing to take a game off SKT in their group's second round robin.
在后天你可能就会宣布一个消息，这个是您已经做好的决定吗？
算是我做好的决定吧。对，因为在跟俱乐部沟通过很多次以后，俱乐部那边也尊重了我的决定。
After a long and winding road, nearing the end of 2019, Uzi decided it was time to take a step back and focus on his well-being after years of battling severe body pain alongside complications with type 2 diabetes.
1年前、2年前就有，突然有那么一天你会发现你的身体，就是特别是这个右边这条手臂这块嘛，就会发现你握鼠标都握不住的那种感觉。确实身体方面是最关键的原因，也不怕告诉大家，真的我是有糖尿病，而且是很严重的那一种。就现在
With his long history of substitutions going back as far as May 2017, it was, according to Uzi himself, almost inevitable for his retirement to come sooner rather than later. But without a world championship under his belt, the AD carry was still rather hesitant to call it his actual retirement because of his burning desire to keep on playing.
就会想着我再一天10几个小时的训练量扛下来扛得住吗？我最担心的就是我坚持不下来这样的训练强度，可能就保持不到最巅峰的状态。真的扛着这样的身体原因回去打，可能也不是大家眼里的那个最好的自己。
Just as he predicted, Uzi returned to pro play in 2022, but this time with Bilibili Gaming. Even before he came out of retirement, there were already countless rumors of his eventual return. But all that hype was short-lived, with the superstar carry only playing 9 games in the LPL's 2022 spring season. While one would think this would still be because of his deteriorating health, it was actually because of his in-team conflict regarding team synergy, which left both parties no choice but to go their separate ways. The following season, despite all the controversy, hope was still aplenty with Uzi, as he was still being touted by former pros and analysts as one of the best players in solo queue and scrims.
Uzi is another one of those players that apparently is still in absolute insane form in solo queue, but just does not play competitive right now. So now seeing the news that he's coming back to competitive play is going to be super insane, and he's immediately getting put to the test against Ruler.
Reality, however, was much harsher, as Uzi would go on to have an unremarkable split with the next team he joined in Edward Gaming. Barely making it to the playoffs in the 2023 summer season, Uzi had a middling record against the better teams in the league and couldn't quite compete with the newer generations of ADs like Elk, Ruler, and Jackie Love. After somehow pulling off an upset against Oh My God in typical Uzi fashion, the Mad Dog had one last opportunity to qualify for Worlds through the regional finals. Alas, EDG would fall to both LNG and Weibo Gaming, who, as we know, made it all the way to the World's finals facing T1. Thus, Uzi saw an early end to his season and was forced to take a hiatus once again. Come 2024, Uzi was still without a team he thought could go the distance and lift the Summoners Cup. Facing his stream early in the year, Uzi explicitly mentioned that he no longer had the desire to play competitively.
你如果像别的赛区还稍微轻松一点，那个中国跟韩国这个训练时间真是吃不消的，我操。
As he would further explain, he could no longer keep up with the demanding schedule of being a pro player, as he is now a father to his child. Alongside taking good care of his health, Uzi now has more responsibilities that are more important to him now. For the longest time, Uzi was the best to never win a title, and while he never was able to win Worlds in his career, over the past decade, Uzi has shown the entire world that he was one of the best to ever play the game in its history. Perhaps, in a timeline without Faker playing spoiler to Uzi, we would have seen him lift the Summoners Cup at least once. Unfortunately for him, Uzi just happened to play League of Legends at a time when competition was much stiffer, a time when Faker dominated. Throughout his entire career, he persevered and competed to the best of his ability, even at the cost of his own well-being. Back-to-back World Finals, domestic titles, and an MSI trophy under his belt, truly, Uzi, the puppy, the Mad Dog, is one of the all-time greatest and deserving to be in the league's Hall of Fame when it does come to be. And if there's one thing that Uzi will always be known for, it will be his legacy of defining what it means to be a great AD carry and teaching us that just because you didn't win the title doesn't mean that the entire journey's been a complete failure.
我觉得就算在我退役的那一天没有拿到一个真的很好的奖杯，但是我觉得也不会很失望吧，因为我觉得这一段过程已经给了我很大的帮助，因为在打职业周团过程中给我带来了很多东西，也让我去学到了很多东西吧。而且我觉得在我退役的那一天，我觉得我是一定可以拿到奖杯的。